r/AskReddit. What looks complicated to do but is actually quite easy. Basic sewing. Things like simple hemming. Sewing buttons are easy to learn and will make your life easier. If you keep learning, it's amazing to be able to fit your own clothes. Duck up your entire life. Now I'm going to bed. Using a PC. I've worked in a training capacity before and I found that most people's problems are not the difficulty, but rather being intimidated and feeling overwhelmed, especially if you're a bit older and are just now sitting down to learn how to use one. Much like many things, if you take it slow, it's not bad. Once you get the hang of things, it seems silly to have stressed out about it. Crochet. It's just pulling loops through other loops in various combinations. Knitting too. It's just one stitch, and that stitch backwards. If you can do that, you can make almost any knitting piece. Keeping track of stitches rows, following complex patterns, making clothes that fit and adding embellishments like cabling can be a bit more tricky, but you can do all sorts of cool effects with just knit and purl. It's neat as well to find yourself getting quicker and quicker at completing rows. Second grade me, learning to read an analog clock. My daughter has made it to 18 without learning to read an analog clock. After a certain point it became a point of pride. She's likely to become her school valedictorian, and she wants to say, "School taught me many things, but not how to read a clock." Copying posts that reached top of the month but slightly changing the question to get gold. You don't enjoy reading, is it? Moralic standpoint. Necessary to tell someone. Random thing. Questions which are reformulated questions from a thread a few hours ago. Baking. Can you follow a recipe? Can you measure? Can you time things with a clock? Then you can bake. Not saying it doesn't take a tremendous amount of skill to become a great baker, but to make things like cookies or cakes that aren't from a mix, it's not that complicated, yet everyone is amazed when you do it. Origami paper cranes. It's a tradition here to have 1,000 cranes folded for weddings. They're often done in gold foil, framed, and mounted. My parents never did, so I decided to fold them for Christmas one year. By the time I was finished, I figured that I could probably fold one with both hands behind my back. So I tried it. Yes, I can. Tying a tie. Replacing parts on modern appliances such as dishwashers and clothes washers. 90% of them are plug and play. If you know what the problem is, you can figure out what part you need from the net, order it online, and replace it yourself with minimal effort. Save yourself hundreds of dollars, and feel like a boss. If you know what the problem is, that's a big if right there. The easy part might be replacing things, but figuring out what the problem is, not so easy. It can be easy if you go on Reddit and post what your appliance is doing or not doing. 9 times out of 10 someone knows or can point you in the right direction. That's how I figured out what was wrong with my dryer. Shuffling a deck of cards. The idea isn't hard, but I got clumsy hands as if I'm a huge puppet or so. Doesn't help that I got huge hands either. Excel. If you can use basic logic and know a couple of powerful formulas, if, index match, sum, etc., you can perform literal magic in the eyes of your co-workers. Solving a Rubik's Cube. I don't know who gave me my first 3x3 cube, but I remember being in the 6th grade watching YouTube videos on how to solve them. Once I understood how the algorithms worked, it was just a matter of memorizing them. Once you memorize them, it's game over. I remember showing all my friends how I could solve it with my eyes closed. They were shocked, as were my parents. The more impressed they became, the more worried I was that they would find out how easy it was. LOL. Middle school was fun. Picking a standard pin and tumbler lock. Lockpick lawyer has taught me so much about locks, primarily how most of them suck at securing things. Driving stick. Easiest thing ever once you're used to it. And anything stick becomes a race car. Looks complicated but is easy. Rubik's Cube. Minesweeper. Disassembling firearms. Easy to do but hard to learn. Flying. Some types of writing. Playing a music instrument. Apparently using your turn signals. Someone did a survey and a percent of people said they didn't use turn signals because it was exciting. WTF. I rode motorcycles and could not believe this. Risking other people's lives is exciting. People are shit really. Walking, it's a two-step process. When I was young I tried to spin a ball on my finger and couldn't do it, so I tried again and again, and within an hour I pretty much figured it out. What's the trick? I can never seem to get it to spin fast enough. Ed, love all the replies. Thank you Reddit. Checking a thread to see if someone already posted the same response. Looking at you, Rubik's Cube nerds. Running a pre-programmed light board for theater plays. It's hitting one button over and over on cue. Building computers. It's just adult Legos. Lego is adult Lego. Computers are just a different form of Lego. You are never too old for Legos. Embroidery. Especially cross-stitch. Looks really neat. Loads of increasingly awesome patterns. Literally only one stitch to learn. Reading a manual. It's all in there. Really, every question you've got is answered. If just sit down and read the damn thing. Latte art. Making a heart with steamed milk just takes practice. Anything involving video game mapping or 3D animation. In about under a dozen YouTube tutorials that simply tell you how to use the user interface of whatever program you're using. You can basically learn how to use it. Problem is, it's very time consuming to do these things if you care at all about detail. In 3D animation for example you can spend 16 hours on a project only to have 10 seconds of animation done. Or 10 rooms of a map properly complete. But being time consuming and even seriously boring past hour 8 or so is not exactly the same thing as being hard. I think anyone's capable of doing it if they dedicate enough time to their projects. Sewing is actually quite easy. Building a PC. It's literally putting things where they fit. People who aren't into tech stuff, so most likely no one that uses Reddit, think that they're gonna put stuff in the wrong way and break it. But you'll notice you're doing it wrong because it just doesn't fit. Unless you bend the CPU pins. They didn't say the PC had to be functional. Doing your taxes if you don't need to itemize your deductions or use a 1099. Martial arts. Seems impossible at first. Once you get the basics down it really comes down to consistency and repetition. If you're willing to put the time in, you can obtain a black belt. Handyman work. You obviously need some skill, but with some help of YouTube, some tools in the internet, you can save hundreds in-house stuff that doesn't necessarily require a professional to do it. Active listening. It's just listening to what people say to you and asking questions. You don't even have to ask hard questions. Sometimes you can just say something like wow, that seems, and it validates how they're feeling and makes them feel like you care. Because trust me, even the most oblivious of people tend to notice when people's eyes glaze over, even if they don't call you on it. DJing is pretty simple. Producing is where it gets hard. Being there for someone. Most people always know that one person who always knows exactly what to say to cheer someone up or help someone through a tough time, and you probably wonder, man, how do they do that so easily? It's really not hard. Just listening and honestly and openly talking to someone can do wonders. You'll be amazed how much you can actually help. Reading and writing Korean. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.